Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Board of April 3rd, 2024. We start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand with me and join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. Anybody that is here, that we have two exits, one in the back of the room, one on my immediate right. Do not take the elevator. If you need assistance going down, then the stairs, somebody will be there to help you. In addition to that, if you could mute and vibrate your either cell phones or electronic devices, that would be great. And with that, I'll now...
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Lisa Carvello is taking minutes virtually from home tonight, but she's taking the minutes. Lisa's taking the minutes from home tonight virtually.
Yeah, I'll be saying that.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay.
Yeah, I know that there, and we've got Mr. Fishman on Zoom also. So when I do the intros, I'll re-emphasize that. I want to go over the fact that the planning board still allows virtual and in-person meetings, and with that, we use www.zoom.us as the main browser, and if you enter ID 754-663-912, that will get you on to us, or you can use the phone, which is 646-558-8656, and the same meeting ID, which is, again, 754-663-912. And so if we do have any public hearings at that time, if you want to join the meeting, it's *6, toggle to mute or to unmute, and *9 to raise your hand. With that, I'll now introduce the members of the board. We have the director, George Cioris.
Good evening.
Good evening. Make sure everybody, your green light's on, because sometimes you can't see it. We have the assistant of the planning board, Ms. Wilson.
Good evening.
And then on Zoom, taking the minutes and everything else will be Ms. Carvello. And so she's on there. Also on Zoom while I'm on there, we have Brian Fishman.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Brian. Thank you. We have Randy Chase, Town Administrative Representative.
Good evening.
We have Dan Haley, full member.
Good evening.
We have Town Council Representative, Mr. Grunice.
Good evening.
We have sitting in the background, behind the curtain, is our Owen Provencher.
Good evening.
We have a Town Engineer, Mr. Mark LaRue.
Good evening.
We have a full member, Mr. Malaby.
Good evening.
We have full member, Mr. Feinhauer.
Good evening.
We have Vice Chair, Mr. Dave Nelson.
Good evening.
And current Chair, John O'Connor. And with the order of business, the first thing we're going to be doing is electing the new official offices for this coming year, which will be the Chair, the Vice Chair, and Secretary. So with that, I'm going to open up for nominations, starting with the Chair. Is there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Dave Nelson for chair.
Okay, we have a nomination. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Is there any other nominations from the floor?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to recommend or nominate Richard Malaby as secretary.
Can you hang on when we get down to the secretary?
Oh, sorry,
We'll
sir.
do the chair first, then the vice chair. But I'll keep that in mind, though. With that, Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grunice,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes, sure.
and the chair will vote yes for him. So should I turn it over to you now?
No, finish up the elections,
Okay, we'll
please.
finish up on the boards. So the next one that we have is for vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate John O'Connor for vice chair.
And is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any nominations from the floor? Seeing none, Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. Malavy,
Yes.
Mr. Feinhauer.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And I'll also make it unanimous. Thank you. Going on into secretary, any nominations for secretary?
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Richard Malby as secretary.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
And any nominations from the floor? Seeing none, going with Mr. Chase,
Yes.
with Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. Malavy.
I think this is the embodiment of the Peter principle, where you rise to the level of your own incompetence. I will say yes. Thank you.
Mr. Feinhauer,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the former chair votes yes also. So with that, we have a selection of officers for this coming year. And I wish everybody well, and the board's been very, very good, and hope that we continue on doing that. So with that, give us a few minutes, and we're going to be switching positions.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Chairman, while you guys are switching roles, I just want to say, John, thank you for being the chairman of the planning board. You did outstanding job. You want to run a great meeting. I just want to thank you for your service, and I want to welcome Mr. Nelson as the new chair. You as a vice chair, Mr. Malby as secretary. Good luck to everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask Mr. Fishman on that one.
Yes, on both accounts.
All right, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate the confidence. And again, I also thank John for his service and Andy for his service over the last year. Next item on our agenda is escrow. We are going to review the existing escrow accounts to determine sufficiency, and I'll ask Mr. Cioros to introduce that for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as part of our April meeting, the two things we have to do every year or three things, is the organizational meeting, which election of officers, cash review for the annual review, and then the policies and procedures. So Mark and I talked a little bit about this a couple of days ago on the list. I'll defer to Mark. I know he was going to speak to a couple of the older projects, and but the opinion of the staff was that there's adequate security there that the planning board could approve those cash escrows. So Mark, I don't know if you want to mention a couple that you spoke with?
Yeah, I would just like to point out the older ones. As far as the second digits, those are the years that they were taken out on the form. And the T-Mobile Northeast LLC, that's, I believe, removal of a tower. That's a bond that's always in place until, it's changed over or updated. I think it's every 20 to 30 years.
I don't know what's.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you know? No, 25 years. Thank you.
25 years? I knew it was in the ballpark. The next one, Samuel Kershaw, that's regarding the the driving range on Ryan's Hill. I actually spoke with the owner there, and he's looking to do something with it this year to get it off the books, because it's gone on long enough. It's just finishing the resurfacing of the area that was improved upon, and some incidental work for that. 11 Chena Road, that should be completed. I believe there was, we had left it in place just from, I think when there was more activity there due to the fire at 6 Shanita Road. But that should be, I believe that's all finished.
And I assume that that's a typo because it wasn't issued in 1939.
No, no. It was probably 19, if I had to guess. Yep.
The first number is the year that it was established. It was established in 2019. The second number is how many we've had that year. So like tonight, we're up to 7 already for 24. So like Mark said, that probably should be a 19 or even a 9, and we'll eliminate the 39.
Okay. I assumed that was the case.
And 2016, I'm surprised it didn't seem like it was that long ago, but that's High Meadows, the 3-lot subdivision off of High Street. They haven't started that, but I know there's activity to try to change ownership. That's all I've heard about it. But the escrow's been in place. And then Prime Storage is a similar thing. It's to change over canopy to more storage space, but they haven't discussed doing anything with that at this time. And then most of the others more recently are small 2, 3, 4 lot subdivisions. Some of which you just saw recently.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from the board? There is a recommended motion.
You answered all my questions.
I so move.
All right, why don't you actually just read it?
Move to find the list of open cash escrows are held in the amounts which provide adequate security
Is this
for the.
mic on?
I turned it on.
I'll repeat, is that on now?
Blame Owen, can't see the green light.
I'll start over. Move to find that the list of open cash escrows are held in the amounts which provide adequate security for the proposed length of the project. The amounts listed above are the ending principal and interest amounts as of February 2024.
Second.
So moved by O'Connor, seconded by Grenice.
It was actually before me.
Now.
It doesn't matter.
We'll duke it out later.
Any discussion? I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
And then chair votes yes. The next item on the agenda is correspondence, so I'll ask our newly elected secretary, Mr. Malaby, to tell us if we have correspondence this evening.
Oh, my goodness, my Vanna White moment. We have a bit of correspondence this month. It's the March and April issue of New Hampshire Town and City. And this issue actually has the New Hampshire Municipal Association's annual report for 2023.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is review of I'm sorry. Approval of minutes for March 20th, 2024, which have been included in your packet. Are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, can I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion for approval.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. Because we have a remote attendee, I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Now we're on to policies and procedures. So as George indicated, this is an annual review time. So if anyone has thoughts, suggestions for revising the policies for the coming year, this would be the time to discuss them.
So earlier this year, during a public hearing, I had suggested that we keep the public hearing open until all the members of the public had their questions answered in case they had follow-up questions. I was told it was in the policies and procedures. I didn't find it in there, but that is my recommendation going forward, is that when we have a public hearing, if someone comes up and asks a question, not to rush to close the public hearing before they get their answers in case they have a follow-up. But I didn't see it in here, so I don't know if we have to change anything, but I was told that it was part of that at the time. But that's just my thoughts on it. I don't think we should be closing the public hearing until we know that the questions are answered.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. I also read it, and I think you're correct that there's nothing in here that addresses it one way or the other. I think it's more of a, we've always done it this way, but I think it's a really good idea. And I would recommend we draft some language to put it in the policies just so that future boards will know what we've decided to do, and I think maybe the right thing to do is to move to close the public hearing after the board has had all of its questions answered and is ready to start taking votes. Does that sound like a good
Yeah.
idea?
Sounds-
Everyone agree? Mr. Bernice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I remember Mr. Haley bringing that up, and I think it's a great idea. I would just make a suggestion that, I always found that even when I was a chairperson, the meeting and even during the meetings, a abutter would come up, ask like 8 questions. Another abutter would come up, ask 8 questions, and I'd see the engineer trying to write them all down, and they would forget some of them. So how about if we draft something that a abutter comes up, they ask the question, before, they can either sit back down, or before they sit down, the engineer or the developer comes up, answers those specific questions, and then that person sits down, and that way there, it's like, each person gets their questions answered. That way there, the engineer or the developer isn't trying to remember all the questions. Then after that, before we go into granting waivers or anything, that's when you close a public hearing.
Yeah, that also sounds like a good idea, and I'm going to speculate that the reason we are doing it the way we are, with asking the questions and sitting down, and the engineer came up, was back in COVID days, we didn't want strangers sitting next to each other in the little presentation dais. So if no one thinks that is a current concern, we could certainly implement that method.
How's that work?
Does anyone, thoughts or disagreements? Mr. Chase?
It works okay, but the other part of the reason pre-COVID was sometimes we would have some non-popular items before us, and we didn't want both the developer, engineer, and the aggrieved abutter sitting at the same table at the same time. So if we were going to, come up with a plan like that, I believe it would be wise to have some degree of separation.
Okay, we don't have to decide on the wording tonight, but if we have people just hopping up and down, that wastes a little time. So let's figure out a way to address Mr. Grenice's concern and Mr. Chase's concern. Mr. Grenice?
So how about, I was just thinking that because I remember Mr. Haley brought that up, and I was trying to, before tonight's meeting, trying to figure out how we can work things a little smoother. How about, and I get your point, Mr. Chase, but how about like if they stay up there and then we have a nice podium, they can, remember years ago,
Yeah.
they would stand over there, I don't know if we have a cordless mic still.
Yep.
Well, they can stand there so that they're not, I don't know, just thinking outside the box here.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Mr. Provencher, but I know he does have wireless mics, and we have PTZ cameras that can catch anywhere in the room. So that lectern that's standing right over there could certainly be a place for the engineer to come up and address answers to questions.
That would be good,
Yeah, just thinking outside the box.
Yes.
because we've had some contentiousness, like Manny
Yes.
said, over the years, and you don't want people sitting next to each other.
So, Mr. Soros, you've
Yeah.
heard the discussion. Would you be prepared to help the clerk draft some language for us to review at our next meeting?
Yes, procedure, what we'll do for the new members, Caroline and I'll put something together. So at your next meeting, we'll have some draft language for you. And then we call that the second reading. And if you're okay with it that night, then you can vote it. Or if you want to take it to a third potential public hearing. We've done that before. So we'll just have it together for you for next meeting, the wording. And then you can vote up or down that night, or say, come back and tweak it.
Are there any other,
Yes, Mr. Chair?
yes, Mr.
I believe there's a recommendation from the director of the planning board, of the planning department. And if you everybody go to page 4 of 14, he's got a required or requested change in red.
Yes. Yeah, the annual minutes, and I want to thank Dan Healy for bringing that to my attention. I forgot, and I apologize, my error. The next meeting, we will have the non-public meeting minutes available to you so you can review them. Back in September, last year, we didn't do all this until September, so you voted to take it up at the annual meeting, which is in April. It should be tonight. So we'll have it on the agenda in 2 weeks, and we'll have those non-public minutes available for you to vote on.
So as again, to expedite things, is it possible, in terms of everyone's schedule, that we could meet in a non-public session half an hour before our normal time of convening to actually review those and discuss those?
Yeah, we should, you have to do that in non-public, so, yeah, I mean, can you meet at 6:30? Most of you make it that night prior to the regular meeting? And we'll do that, and then on the regular agenda, you'll go through, the normal voting and stuff.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other
Dan Healy, thank you
suggestions?
for reminding me today. You forget stuff, it's happens.
Mr. Grenice?
So I just got a quick question about, so I don't think we've ever done a non-public, so it would be held the same way we hold non-publics. If
Yes.
we noticed.
Yeah, we'll have to
majority has
note,
to come out
Exactly.
here to vote to go, okay.
yeah,
All right.
we have to post it differently. We have to post it per the RSA.
Right.
And like Dave said, we can go in this room, we can go in the training room, and then we have to go
We
privately,
can go in the back.
or the back room here, the
Yeah, I
council
think it's
room.
been like 8 to 10 years since we did a
Yeah.
non-public.
And then the
that was-
secretary,
Yeah, and the only reason why
Notes.
Carol and I went through, these are for the new members, you're supposed to look at non-public minutes. These go back to 2010, and Dan Healy knows as a clerk, you have to review them. There's only 6 that we have nothing new in the last several years because we have not been in court in a good way, and we've had no real controversies, but we had some in 2010 that got very personal in the minutes privately that you can't talk about in public. So this will be our final cleanup of those minutes to approve them as non-public. We've been really lucky the last several years, and you guys have done great not to take us to court, and the controversies have gone away for the most part.
And we only, doesn't say how often we have to do this. Do we have to review them every 10 years or something?
It was, yes, it's 10 years, and 2010 was the last, 2009 and 10 are the ones that you're going to look at in 2 weeks.
So a suggestion for a second reading is maybe you could add that to the suggested text that you've added in section 1, and maybe even cite at the RSA that explains how it works,
Yeah.
so that we remember that we have to do it every 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I agree. Yep, that's fine, we'll do that.
Any other discussion? Any other suggestions?
Fishman, I think, had?
All right, so I'm going to poll the board to approve the first reading and ask the staff to schedule a second reading. Can I have a motion?
I'll second that, if that was a motion.
Well,
well, you can't do it.
Oh.
You make the motion,
I'll make the motion he just said.
and I'll second it.
all right, so moved by O'Connor,
don't
second by
vote, John.
Grenice.
I hope Ms. Caravello got that.
She's at
Mr.
home.
Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Brian.
Oh, and Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Planning director or chairman updates. Well, I just taken the role, so I have no updates. Do you have any updates?
I will keep you home by 7:30. I will just want to thank John O'Connor for the record, officially as chairman. The planning department, and John's been very supportive, and we've enjoyed working with John the last few years. So on a personal and professional level, John, thank you for our office. We appreciate
Appreciate it, thank you.
working with you.
Yes, thank you, John. And I would be remiss if I didn't make another beg for volunteers to sign up for our 3 vacant alternate positions.
Yeah, we have 3.
Thank you. Any other business?
Not, Mr. Chairman. Just on the town side, just want to remind everybody, there's a rabies clinic this Saturday at 6 o'clock, April 6th from 1 to 5 p.m. Down here in the, I'm reading the thing. It's, 1 to 5. It's here at Town Hall. And it's cash only, dogs and cats. For 1 year is $15 and 3 years $15. So just FYI.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or reminders? No? All right.
And just tell everybody to be cautious of the snowstorm.
Oh, yeah, let's be careful going home. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. All those in favor say aye.
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 I have 2 gavels. I'm not sure which one to use, but we stand adjourned.
Double.